All right. Of all the super exciting things to say about the fact that D100 space exists is perhaps this, the fact that what I'm holding in my hands here says book one. So that's exciting because it promises tons more content. And knowing Martin Knight and his development of D100 Dungeon, I really, really, really hope that is the case here. This book, this game, D100 Space, occupies a place in the gaming world that is really very empty, actually. The games that I can think of that are solo adventure games, space related, really the only one is 4 Against Mars, which is in the 4 Against Darkness series, but unfortunately was never supported by any other materials that I know of. There might be some fan-based things, I don't know, but as far as official game content, there's nothing else there. It's too bad. It was a great little game, but it's space. We need stuff. We need more. And D100 Space, in and of itself, just this basic book offers a ton, and this video is going to show you just a fraction of what it offers. And there is the promise for more. For those of you who are curious about what this is from, this is a game board from another solo space game, well, solo playable space game, which was Star Trek: The Adventure Game, a wonderful, very different type of board game in space, but there's not a lot in this area. So in this video, I want to do a couple of things. I've created a character. I've played through already the first 4 introductory missions that are suggested by the game. I'm going to discuss what happened, what those missions are, and in the context of doing that, walk you through some of the offerings of the game in terms of rules and in terms of the types of things that you can do in the game. This is not a tutorial, but I am going to go over some of the rules so that you can get a basic sense of it. Is this just D100 Dungeon in space? Well, yes and no. The yes part is that some of the overall structure of the game is the same. The game mechanics are the same, but no, because there's a whole other aspect to this game that is not in D100 Dungeon, which has to do with the fact that you're in space and you're maintaining a spaceship and you're also traveling between galaxies and systems and part of the game if you choose. And that type of experience is very different than in D100 Dungeon. So let's talk, first of all, let's just take a look at my character. And again, I'm going to stop saying this, but if you're familiar with D100 Dungeon, a lot of this will seem very familiar because essentially, yes, it is the same system. My Captain Nichols here is the main attributes that you're working with are strength, dexterity, intelligence here, and you get your option to assign your values of a 30, 40, and a 50 in any way that you choose, get some modifiers, choose some skills, and come up with values that you are rolling at or under to succeed. So, for example, my highest value here is a 50 on intelligence. To succeed on an intelligence task, I would be rolling the D100, and at a 50 or less, it would be a success for me. That is the basics of the rules and probably what I'm going to end up going over in terms of rules, because as I said, this is not a rules tutorial. What I'm really here to do in the video is to give you a feel for the game, and as we go through that, we will talk about how the rules actually play out. So, in D100 Space, there are 2 different modes or aspects of play, really, and one of them has to do with, as I mentioned, traveling between systems and moving within systems at the macro level. So what you have here is a map of the worlds that you are in, and you begin your journey into this world here at Artemis, this world, and you are going to be traveling around the galaxies here, doing various missions and trading and upgrading your ship and all sorts of things. The numbers here on the map explain how many light years of travel it takes, and you will need to be doing a little bit of math in this game to manage your starship. And whoops, I forgot to name my starship. I see. You start out with a fast attack craft, and you can see there's lots of different things that your spaceship has, and they're listed here. So there's a tech level and the amount of cargo space, drive thrusters, fuel tanks, etc. You will be needing to keep track of the power and fuel that you use as you are traveling, and there's formulas for doing that, and you'll be deducting the amount. You can see I've erased and added a lot here along the way. And as you travel, you will have opportunities when you get to bases to purchase more fuel and to purchase more power as you go. And part of understanding how the game works is managing how much fuel and how much power you are going to need to get from one place to another, and making sure you have enough when you set out. When you arrive somewhere at a base or whatever, you may be able to purchase more, but only if you have enough credits. So there's that type of macro management. And I will explain to you the introductory missions are, it is suggested that when you start out to play the game, you go through the first four missions, and these are the first four missions. So you can see just looking from the page that they're very detailed. But what they do is they let you understand some of the basic mechanics of space travel for the first three. Those are space missions. And then for the fourth one, an away mission, this is essentially like a dungeon crawl where you are going somewhere and going into a structure, and then you have a mission goal, and you will be more familiar with the way that works if you've played D100 Dungeon. You have the mapping of the rooms, etc. So to start out here, I will just walk you through a little bit about what it says you are to do. That here, the overall is you're to travel to the Artemis system and sell 25 tons of weapon upgrades at Lunas Station, which is Zone 2. There are the explanation in both the trading guide here, and there is another table that maps out to you where you are in the star system. So you can see here that in Artemis system here, your entry point is Zone 1, and it's telling you that you need to go to Luna Station, which is Zone 2. So that is arrival at the star system and then travel within the star system. And this icon here indicates that it is a space station port. And there are different types. There's military docks and space stations. When you arrive at a space station, you have to pay a fee. When you arrive at a military dock, it is free. So in this particular case, you are needing to travel and then do something. You were told that you're starting out the game at the Vinwar and traveling 116 light years to Artemis, and then you have to do that sail. So there is a calculation here for how much it costs you to travel, and the book is laid out pretty well. You can see I have these Post-its here to remind me of how these things work. So the first thing, it's the moving from system to system comes after moving within a star system. So it explains how you move from system to system. You're doing these jumps, and you have to do a jump test. And it explains that you burn fuel at the rate of 1 ton for every 10 light years of travel. And then there's the formula for what this is. And this will be familiar to you if you've played the system before. What this means is you're using a test. It's your intelligence value plus or minus something called a control modifier. The control modifier has to do with the difference between the tech level of your ship, which in this case, the tech level is 10, that is low, and your own intelligence value. In this case, mine is 50. So at the outset, my control modifier was actually 40 because I picked up a couple of benefits. As you do the early missions, you pick up modifications to your ship. You advance the level of your ship. So my ship now, after doing these missions, is at a tech level of 20. So my control modifier is 30, which is 50 minus 20 is 30. But when I was doing the first mission, it was actually 40 because I hadn't yet advanced the ship. So this is a very clever linkage between your individual ability as a captain to control and to work a ship and the ship actually itself. So the more advanced the ship, the less control you're going to have over it, unless your intelligence is buffed up more. So in any case, to do this test, you do the intelligence plus or minus your control modifier. And a success is you use up 1 PL, which is your power level. So your power, you would take your power level down 1, and you would travel. The travel amount, which in the case of this particular ship was a jump speed of 60. That's the amount that you go. So you would calculate where you were and then also how much fuel you used. You would deduct the amount of fuel you used. So there's an example here, and it's probably easiest for me to show you the example from the book that it is from the first test. So you're traveling 116 light years with a jump speed of 60. You've passed the test, so you travel 60 light years, spending 6 fuel because you spend 1 fuel for every 10 light years, but you still have another 56 light years to go. So he does another test. If you fail, then you have to roll on the table J, which is the table that tells you how much out of the way you went, and then account for the extra fuel that you used and the extra time that you spent and deduct that and then keep going. So now he's traveled 90 light years and is still 26 years away. So he has to do another test and burn up his final fuel. And then you do your final calculations and you're there. Now, does this seem like a lot of math? Yes, it is. There is definitely in this game the management of those numbers, and that's just part of the game. The actual test, so when you're within a star system, if you look here, actually the space cruise test, which is to move within the zones of the system, the actual test is the same. It is this intelligence, it's an intelligence test plus or minus a modifier, the same modifier. But what you are, the success or failure is different. So in this case, you're also using up a power to succeed, but then you get to move to the adjacent zone. If you fail, you don't have to roll on the wandering in space table. You just stay where you are and you try again, in essence, and continue to use up power until you actually can move. They have skills associated with them that you can add on to the modifier. So for space cruising, it's a piloting skill. For the moving within systems, it's a navigation skill. So if you happen to have those skills as the captain, I did not, but if you happen to have those skills, you could add that onto whatever you're trying to roll under for your success. So getting back to the initial operations, the initial missions, the first mission is showing you how to travel within space and then basically use those that one particular formula. And then once you get there, you are automatically getting money for selling something. And there's some flavor text here explaining that the person who's hired you is taking half, so etc. You will end up with 1,000 credits at the end of that mission, and then you move on to the next mission. And the next mission is asking you to travel within zones and to do some mining of the asteroid Eternal. And you have to do that mining test 3 times. So to do within zones, you have to keep track of sort of where you are, and there's not really a built-in way for doing that. You need sort of your own notes to remind yourself where you are within within these worlds. But you had traveled to the Luna station, and then for the second operation, you're moving to zone 5 here to get to this Eternal area with the asteroids. And you can see that they're asteroids because this is the indicator for asteroids. So that is going to require you to do these travel within space cruising within 3 times. So each time you're successful, 1, 2, 3, and then you get there and you do the mining. How do you do the mining? Well, you go to the section within a star system that indicates what you can do at the point of interest. And here is that icon again, which explains to you what asteroid mining is. And again, you can see in this case, it's close to the same test. It's this intelligence plus or minus this modifier, the control modifier, plus or minus this value of DT, which has to do with your drive thrusters. And this has to do with your what is on your Starship. And you can see just from the sheet here that as you go, you can purchase and attain modifications to your Starship that will give various benefits and will allow you to do various things. Now, in this particular test here, you are only able to do asteroid mining if you have the particle scoop and mining laser modification. And as part of the training, you basically get that to add to your Starship to enable you to do this mission. And that's how I was able to add those here. When you get the particle scoop, you have to remember that it's going to also have a negative benefit to your jump speed. That is important to remember when you go back to a different system, because remembering back to what we talked about, moving system to system, you have to know how much, when you do a success on the jump test, how far you have actually moved. So we're not no longer going to be able to move 60. We're only going to be able to move 55 light years once we have this particle scoop attached to our craft. So you get to the asteroids and you do your mining test, and you, with a success, will get 1d3 minerals and 1d3 metals that you can add into your carry area. Now, I don't have them here anymore because I've sold them as part of the training, but they are added in and then you have them for sale. So moving back to the operations here, we can see that you will be collecting these, and then you will flying them to zone 10 and getting some water. And once you have finished mining and collecting that, you have all of that material. So again, to move to zone 10, to the star system page, which shows you here, zone 10, that Yibra is the planet, and you can see it's a water world. You can collect water there. So you're here. So you're doing 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You have to do 5 more successful jumps to get there and to collect your water from this world. And then that is the end of this training mission. So it doesn't, you don't have to go back anywhere. You just stay there. And this is where you are at the end of this mission. The next mission, they're building you up to show you other things you can do. Something else you can do is called trading. And now you know you have collected from here, you've collected your water, you've collected your minerals, and you've collected your metals. And in the next mission, we're going to figure out how to trade them. All right, I'm going to pick up the pace a little bit when we talk about the mission 3, so that we can get to some gameplay in this video. Mission 3 is a trading mission, and in essence, what it is acclimating you to are the trading tables and the concept that as you travel throughout this system, you're going to need to be making money and you're going to want to make money. And the way to do that, one of the ways to do that, is to buy low and sell high through trading opportunities. And so there's basically two different tables that will help with trading. One is just listing the prices of items to buy and sell at various star systems. So if we look here at Artems, for example, and we wanted to buy some bio waste here, it will cost 15. You'll notice that this 15 is in red with a down arrow. That means that anywhere else in the galaxy, it's never going to be cheaper than 15 because we see that down arrow here. Now, it may be 15 somewhere else. Like I see here, Minth, this colony, it is also 15, but nowhere else will it be cheaper. And then what you can sell something for at a system is listed. So for example, if we purchased bio waste at Artems for 15 and we wanted to sell that bio waste at Flockstar, they will be purchasing it for 30. So we would their net would be 15. So this is one of the trading tables. The other one is a trading guide, and this lists the systems that are adjacent to each other. So things that you might actually be passing through to get to one another, and it will give you the amount of just the profit that you can get. So at a glance, you can tell, for example, that if you picked up bio waste at Artems and took it to Vinwar, your net profit would be 25 per unit of that. If there is no price, it means that you can't get a profit. So it's either flat or a negative. So that's something that you wouldn't want to do. So the third mission, in essence, is taking you through some trading situations and explaining to you how the buy prices and the sell prices work and how you can determine what the best ratio of that is to maximize your profit. And it is having you do this with some resources and get the money for it. And then it's having you travel back to the Lunas station. And when you get to the Lunas station, it's having you do a port phase. And this is a key aspect of the game mechanics. There are lots of things you can do when you're in a port, and we'll just run through them briefly here. So once again, the two port icons, the space station and the military base, are indicated here. So not all options are at all types of bases. Medics, for example, are at both. So you can seek the services and restore lost HP for 20 credits per restored point. There's an armorer at both, fixing your armors, and paying the fixed cost per pip of damage. And if you know the D100 system, you'll understand what that means. There are trading halls, but those are only at space stations. They're not at military bases. And this is where we are looking to see what you can trade and buy. And you can also do a search action here to just simply purchase items. So you can roll on various tables equal to your reputation value. I don't think I mentioned that in the earlier segment, that everybody has a reputation value, a karma value, and the life value. Karma is essentially a reroll. Reputation is something that will allow you to roll on tables like that and do some other things. And the life value here is when you get down to your 0 HP, you have 20 HP for each life. Then if you went down to 0 HP, you would erase one life and continue back with 20 HP. But once you exhaust that, you're done. In any case, getting back here, so you can do a search action basically to come up with some items that you may want to purchase if you have any credits. You can also buy some basic supplies. That these are on the table N, which is a needed things table. Again, that is also the same in D100 Dungeon, where you can roll on that, and if you have the money, or actually you don't even have to roll on it, you can just buy a maximum of 20 things plus your rep value. So in my case, I could buy 24 items as long as I could pay for them. And we can look quickly and see what is on this table. So things like a decoder unit, I could have used that in the game so far. That helps you open a certain type of door. Rations, night vision, oxygen. These are things that are needed in the away missions, and we'll see how that comes into play. And then there are also things like that are more valuable ultimately, like something, a might booster capsule that will give you +5 strength until you next shade a pip on the time track, or a radium power cell that has 10 charges that can be used to add power to your Cybercon unit and then discard. We didn't talk about the Cybercon unit, which is here in basically the spell slot of a D100 dungeon character sheet. And what this allows you to do is to get essentially, like, I guess, biometric or whatever upgrades that you can put into yourself if you have that skill. And you will have that skill, as I do, if you have a 50 or more in intelligence. I don't have any things yet. You can find them along the way, and there is a power cost to use them. So the power cells here is really valuable. And you can see that you start out with 10 power cells. I've only got 4 left. What happened to me in the game at one point was I found an energy shield, and I found a really great energy shield that can deflect up to 4 wounds if I'm using it. There's 2 problems with it. One is it will not allow me to use my main weapon, which is the electromag mortar. That's a 2-handed weapon that does 3 damage, or +3, adds +3 to damage. I have to switch that out with my what do I have here? My laser pistol that only adds +1 to damage if I want to use the shield, because the shield takes 1 hand and then the laser takes another. The second problem with it is that when you use the energy shield, it's powered by these energy cells. And the way it works is you can opt for it to absorb some damage instead of your HP getting the damage, no matter where you are damaged. It covers your whole body, but it's going to take a power cell to use it. So the reason that I only have these number left is because I used it to absorb some damage in the course of an encounter that I had during my away mission. And that is a great segue into mission number 4. So mission number 4 is the only away mission in the starting operations 4 set of missions. And what this is the detail of it is at Rebel Base Zone 3 in the Vinwar system, help out with a vermin problem. You have a description here. There's a huge problem of vermin underneath the space dock at Rebel Base. You will be getting, to complete the mission, you have to loot 4 scraps from the enemies there, and you will do that via encounters where the win condition for the encounter is a scrap from whatever that might be. And then you turn over 4 scraps by removing them from your log sheet to collect the payment for this mission, which is 1,000 credit. If you fail this mission, you can see this is the first one, the only one in the first 4 that actually has a fail condition. You have to roll on the B table. B is for bad things, +40. I'm not even going to show you the table because I don't want to ruin the surprise for viewers or myself, because I haven't had to roll on it yet as to what is on there. But rest assured, you don't want to be rolling on that bad table at the end of a failed mission. So this leads you to understanding what away missions actually entail. And we'll look here first at the rule book, and then most importantly, we will look at something that perhaps is familiar in a manner of speaking to those who have played D100 Dungeon, because in effect, this is the dungeon crawl aspect to D100 Space. That what you do when you're performing an away mission is to follow the operation details. In this case, they are to raid this facility and rid them of this vermin. And you start out by marking off time spent, and we'll look here at the time track here. I have not cleaned up after this mission yet, so I should probably do that before we get on with things. But this is the time track. So you begin by marking off time spent, going through first the number 1 slot, and then moving to the 2, and then moving to the 3. So this accounts for 36 hours here on this track. When you come into a box with an indicator of something, you need to either consume, in this case, oxygen. This is indicating that you need to be using a night vision goggle kind of thing, and you have the amounts of them up here, or rolling to see whether you have an enemy encounter, and you take a d10, and if you're rolling this number or less, there is an enemy. If you roll above that number, there is no wandering monster, in essence, is what that is. There's also, at the end of the mission here, a consumption of rations. So you have tracks here to keep score in terms of what you have, and there are penalties associated with needing to tick off one of those boxes and not having it to do. So the first thing you do is you roll on a d100 table that is comprised of the possible locations that you can encounter, and we'll just take a quick look here. And as with the system as a whole, there are different colors. There's yellow, red, green, and blue, and they correspond to yellow being quote unquote nothing. You're able to search that area. I drew my yellow ones as orange so that they would show up on video, and red is you roll for an encounter right away. Green is a geographic kind of space. In this scenario, my geography was a spike pit booby trap. It was terrible, and I lost some health pretty much right away after starting out nice and simple here in an empty corridor, basically. And blue are the objective rooms, and if you reach a blue, but there is no objective room to your mission, then you can treat it as an empty space, and you can search it, and you can continue along. In this case, I have a note here. There was a mutated crew, an escaped mutated crew wandering around, because when I needed to roll for a wandering monster and I failed that roll, and instead of fighting them, they were successfully able to escape the combat. So nothing really happened there, but they were there. And in the end, this is how long it took me to encounter and collect the scraps from various enemies that I found. And who did I see? Well, let's take a look at who I saw. The first thing was very thematic. It was a bunch of freight rats. I dispensed with them pretty easily, actually, and got some 1 scraps from them. Encountered some more freight rats later on, 1 scraps from them. Then I encountered these hive carriers, and they gave me 3 scraps, so I completed my mission there. But I wasn't sure, I couldn't remember from D100 Dungeon, and I couldn't find it in the rules here. Perhaps it's there and I just didn't see it, whether I needed to backtrack or just like end the mission here. So I said I needed to backtrack, and I was backtracking, counting off the time and doing the necessary wandering monster rolls, and that's when I ultimately encountered this giant conduit snake. It was good that I encountered it. It gave me 2 more scraps. I never got its special ability, which is like a poison acid thing on me, and I was able to get my XP rewards for doing all of that. So in the end, I exited this structure. I sold off my scraps that I got, and actually, I haven't done that yet. I said I haven't done the cleanup. So you can see here are the 7 scraps that I got. I need to sell 4 of them to complete the mission, and I will do that, and then I will get my reward, which is 1,000 credits. And the other thing you're instructed to do at the end is to clean up the time here. Now, there is one thing that is a little odd to me. Here, it says after an away mission. So you're going to be removing the shaded pips from passes and remote tracks. That has to do with different types of doors. We're going to get to that in a second. And then it says remove all shaded pips from the acid and plague tracks. These effects are treated back on the captain's starship. So it's like you can automatically heal from acid or plague. And I think that's a little generous. I don't know. I had spent some money at some point to buy an extra thing of a cleansing wrap that would let me deduct 3 pips from a plague track track, thinking I was so smart to do that. It cost me 195 credits, but I guess you are automatically healed. So perhaps it's a risk to take not to get things like that and hope that you can complete your mission and just get back and heal. But I thought that was a little odd. We remove the ration penalties, we eat properly on the Starship, and we also recover fully before the next mission. I don't think we get our rations back, but if there was a penalty associated with being hungry, like a modifier to a -20 modifier to your target number or something like that, that would go away. And then finally, it says remove all shaded pips from the time track. So we will do that here. I already gave myself the 1,000 credits in between filming segments. So we're going to take this off here, and we will be selling. Well, not selling. We will be giving, I believe. I don't think we get money for the scraps. Let me confirm that. It says loot the scraps, hand over. So we're not, well, yes, payment is the success. So we're just handing over scraps. So we will retain 3 sets of scraps for 75 credits each to be sold possibly somewhere else, but we handed over those 4 and we completed that mission. So this is where we are now, having completed the 4 training missions. We also have to remember, I believe, literally where we are, and that is getting back to the fact that we are at Zone 3 in the Winwar system at the Rebel base. So we're in this system here. We're in Zone 3, and it's important because we have possibilities at a base to do the port phase, which we talked about. And some of that is selling and buying things, getting supplies. We could also consider, I don't know whether I went through absolutely all of this, whether we are going to pick up passengers. So we could ferry some passengers and we get 100 credits for dropping them off at their destination. And it simply requires us to enter the star system's orbit. That's a Zone 1. And then the passenger is transferred to a taxi. So that's kind of an easy way to get money if we can find them by rolling on the star systems table for our reputation value, knowing, where they might be going. So that's something that I think I need to do. The problem is if there's space combat, which I haven't gone over yet and haven't done, and they're removed, then it's going to cost us 50 credits in compensation paid to the loved one. So there's that to think about. Other things here, we can buy and sell cargo, as we talked about. Remember, we have 1,000 credits right now. We can also buy and sell modifications and starships at the shipyard, which is something that we might want to do because we are flying right now a very basic ship, and we might want to get some modifications at the shipyard. So this is where we start to enter some of the real decision space of the game after we've gone through these 4 missions. All right, so what we're going to do now is we're going to do a port phase. We are at this Rebel base already, so we don't have to pay any docking fee. We are here in the Rebel base in Winwar. This is the Zone 3. And I think the first thing we're going to do is basically I want to maybe get some, I might sell a few things. We don't have much to sell, really. We just have these 3 scraps, which is going to get us 75. I had previously purchased some things. I don't think I'm going to sell them, even though I have some items that are worth a lot of credits. I'm not going to do that right now. We're going to do, first of all, we're going to roll on we're going to get some potential missions here. So we're going to roll for operations. And basically what this means is we get to roll on the operations table up to our reputation value, which is 4. So we can do 4 rolls there. And if we get an operation that we have not done before, we can list it here. We can have 4 active operations here. The completed ones are indicated here. If we roll on one of those, we've just kind of lost an opportunity. So hopefully we won't roll super low. But let's start by doing that, and then we're going to assess kind of where we are with things. So we'll just give it a roll, and the first one we rolled for is 37. So let's see what Operation 37 is. We certainly haven't done that one yet. Operation 37. Ooh, it's long. Okay, it is a space mission. So this is going to be a traveling between systems kind of thing. We get potentially 3,000 credits, and it's called Ruptures in Space. The detail is ships mining the asteroid Babylon have been vanishing without trace. Okay, so description: when the captain has added this operation to their log, they may not mine the asteroid Babylon in Zone 5 of the Wexar system in the normal way, but may instead mine using this mission instructions. And then there's a long story here. Basically, we make some mining tests, and we need the right types of modifications here. I don't know if we could even do this, but let's look first of all, where is this? The Wexar system. So again, part of this game is really management of fuel capacity and power capacity, and knowing where you are and whether you can actually even get to the place where the operation is. So Wexar is here. We are here, and that is quite far away. If you add up these, as a reminder, are the light years away. So that is, I will note this down off camera, but that is not something we can do right now from where we are. We just would never be able to get there. But that is the operation. The first one we rolled up, and the second one is 42. Hopefully we'll get something a little bit closer. 42, this is an away mission. An away mission translates to basically a dungeon crawl. It's called The President's Speech. Ooh, it's 4,000 credits. The president of the United Federation of Star Systems has been taken hostage. Ooh, so he was on a flight to Ender Station to deliver the most important speech of his career, but was attacked. His ship crashed, and he is in a facility, been taken hostage. So we need to kill 4 enemies marked with this from any table. And after the 4th one, we encounter basically, I guess, a bossed cyber trooper that's down here. And when we kill them, we discover the president hiding in a crate, and the mission is completed. And we then shuttle him, and we get a rescue fee, etc. We're in orbit around Sinish Zone 9 in the Blimula system. So this is where this is the location. And then let's see, how near or far is that from where we are? It's even further. But so this is bad for right now, but it's good because we'll have this on our mission log. So once we do this one, we're going to be relatively close to this one. So we can possibly take care of that, but we can't get there. Definitely can't get there right now. So those are 2 we got, and let's keep rolling here. That's a 0-2. Unfortunately, you can't see that off camera, but that's a 0. We have already done mission 2. That was our training, one of the training missions, and so that's a nothing. And then we get 38. Did I already roll for 38? I did. That's Ruptures in Space. I don't know if I get a re-roll on that. Not sure about the rules here, but for the sake of this video, wow, I'm rolling. Now I got a 39. All right. Let's see if we can do this one. This is also an away mission, 4,000 credits, the Rifter Experiment. An ancient order of rifters are looking to buy military-grade enhancer drinks to practice their powers. This seems somewhat wizardly. Let's find where it's, they're in the dead world of Paterdia, Zone 6. In the Blimula system, the same thing. It's the same place. Well, again, that's good once we can get there. But, all right, so the bottom line is that the missions that are available to us now are all very far away from where we are. So what this means is we are going to need to travel, move from system to system. We're going to need to do that, perhaps taking on some passengers to get a little bit of credit or money to ultimately buy more fuel and buy more power that we use as we kind of make our way across the galaxy to the system where the missions are that we're going to do them. I'm not going to show that on video because I already discussed that type of movement early on, and I would prefer to show something that is mission based. However, what I am going to do is show how you possibly take on passengers, because I think that is our next move at this point. We can, well, there's two things we can really do. We can make a little bit of money by doing some trading and buying something. So again, we're in Winwar, and what we're going to be doing is we're going to be, Vinwar. We're going to be traveling, we're going to be going this way, basically. We got to get a Wexar and Blimula. And so we're going to travel through Imphar. So the first thing I want to do is look and see, is there anything that we can get, that we can purchase where we are and then sell when we dock there and make like a little money? Is that worth trying to do? Because we are going to need to be spending money for fuel and power and such. So we're going to go to this trade table that I mentioned here, and we will look up Winwar to Imphar. We can make some money selling chemicals and selling food. We're going to net 25 off of that. So we can purchase those items if we wish, and we can go to the cargo price and take that on as cargo, basically, either chemicals or food. And we can look here, what does that cost? Well, we see, oh, chemicals, this is the lowest in the galaxy. Well, both chemicals and food are the lowest in the galaxy, and the profit on each of them is the same, I think, was 25. So in that case, we will buy the lower priced item here. So we can buy some food and have that as a cargo item. And we will look here at our spaceship area cargo hold. Here, cargo is different than equipment that you have. We have a cargo space of 30. Right now, we have, I don't know what this salvage 20, this must have been something I picked up in one of the missions I forgot about. We'll just hang on to that. But we are going to purchase some food that we're going to put in here. We can really only, we've got 20 salvage. We're going to, as I said, hang on to that till we can sell it somewhere for a profit. And so we could potentially fill up with 10 food items here. So we'll do that, and note that the cost of food on Vinmar is going to be 20, and we just bought 10 of them. So that is going to cost us 200 credit. So we will be down to 800 credit right now. And I do want to check and make sure that our power level and our fuel are up, topped off, as it were, and they are. And now with the food on board, we're going to see if we can find a passenger or passengers that want to go to a place we're passing through. It says we can ferry them across the galaxy. Each passenger successfully dropped off earns 100 credit. It doesn't really cost us anything. We have to enter the star system's orbit in zone 1. So if that is I suppose if there was some type of base there, we might have to pay 50, but we would still get some money, and we don't have to do anything out of pocket now. So it says to find passengers seeking passage, we're going to roll a number of times equal to our rep value on table Z, and just see if there's somebody that's going to want to go where we are traveling by. We could be hiring some crew to control certain areas of the Starship. That will give them a bonus for tests. All right, so I've done a lot of work off camera to travel all the way to, so I was at Vinwar, and remember our missions that we're focusing on are at Wexar and then this Blemula. I'm now at Wexar, and I just want to show you, I used just the side of this other sheet to do my fuel and power calculations as I traveled. This may be the part of the game that leaves some people cold, which is that there is a bunch of, it's really simple math, but it is management of whether you have enough power, whether you have enough fuel, whether you need to go to find a base to refuel and up your power, or there's a mechanism in the game that allows you to try to search for random fuel out in the space, basically. So you don't have to do that, and you can, if you succeed in that test, you can get fuel equivalent to your fuel scoop level, which is 12, but it's there's calculations involved. I mean, there's no other way around it. In any case, I went pretty directly to through the systems. I didn't investigate possible points of interest or things like that because I wanted to just get to the place where I was going to have my missions. I am here now at Wexar, and along the way, just at Jet, actually, I picked up some water that I'm about to sell because the price of water is low on Jet, and I can make a profit a little bit here on Wexar. The current operation that we're focused on here is this, and I'm going to do this off camera, but I will just help you know what I'm trying to do. This is the missing ships that were mining the asteroid Babylon that are vanishing without a trace. So what I need to do is I need to accompany some volunteer starships to travel to this place and to assist in mining exercises to see what's going on. All right, well, that turned out to be really easy. I don't know if I did something wrong, but basically where we are now is in the course of doing one of our jumps, we ended up getting to the end here of our intelligence. So we raised our intelligence to 55, and our control modifier is still 30, so that's 85. And then we were using, because we picked up these mining ops, we already had 5 of them, which brought us to 100, but then they gave us 5. So we were essentially guaranteed success, I think. Now, I don't know if I did this wrong. Maybe if anyone knows, they can put a comment in, but it was like an automatic success because I was rolling under 105. I had to do that to do the escorting and the gathering of the minerals. So I basically had no opportunity to get the bad minerals, I think. Fuel, and we completed that mission. Oh, I need to mark that off of here. So we've done mission 37 to 38. We can mark that off and erase that. It's not clear to me when we can roll for more active operations. As you recall, we weren't able to get 4 at the outset because we rolled on something we had already done. And so I'm not sure about that. I'll have to refresh my memory in the rules when I can get more, but it doesn't matter because I know what we really are attempting to do right now is this mission that is essentially right next door. The Rifter experiment is a way mission that takes place in Zone 6 of Bleemala. So the detail of this is an ancient order of Rifters are looking to buy military-grade enhancer drinks to practice their powers. This is a 4,000 credit mission, and the Rifters are an ancient order going back 6 millennia. They use mind control and telekinesis to perform all kinds of strange mystical effects. They have been essentially banished, but they've moved underground and still practice their powers. The military-grade enhancer drinks can be found in a facility on the dead world of Patridia. That's Zone 6 in the Bleemala system. So right here, this is a dead world. We're basically trying to collect 2 military-grade enhancer drinks of any type, and it explains where we can find them. And once we get 2 of them, we have completed our mission, and then we fly to Ender Station, which is next door. Let's see. Here, we have to fly back to 4. Well, actually, it's 2 zones away, to, during a port phase, hand them over. to a rifter in return for a payment fee. So we're basically being hired to do something a little sketchy here, essentially, but we're going to get 4,000 credits. So we need to get here, fly there, collect the stuff, and then give it over. And then when we're done with that, our next plan, I think, is going to be to go back to here to rescue the president. So we're going to be pretty busy. All right, I think we're ready to roll here. We have cruised into the appropriate place on this dead world. We picked up a few things before we got here. We got extra oxygen. Don't know if we're going to need it. I have some decoders here, which I learned from my training missions you need for certain doors. I have some explosive rounds that will allow me to roll D10 for damage. And I got some med packs that are going to restore 4 HP if I use them. One question I have for those of you who are still with me is if anyone knows what this little diamond means. I don't know if that means I have to add +1 time if I'm using the explosive rounds. Unclear there. I didn't see an easy reference to that, but maybe I'll discover that before I actually have to use it. So in order to do the away mission, you need a fresh map sheet, and unfortunately my printer printed me this. I hate my printer, and if this was a different type of video channel, I would go on and on naming the brand. I won't do that. In any case, I found an old sheet, so we'll be using this with disregarding the remnants of something there, and we will be using this, and we're going to set out on an away mission here to recover or to steal or get some of these illegal items for our sponsoring group. The first thing you do when you are on an away mission is you will mark off a pip on the time track, and that immediately, in this case, causes you to also use an oxygen. So I didn't replenish any of my oxygen, so I'm now down to 8. But as mentioned, I have some oxygen container. I've got 4 oxygen containers, actually, that I've purchased along the way. And the next thing we'll do after marking off the time is we're going to roll for the location. And this is rolling on table F, and then we will start to map it out. And this is where, if you have played a bunch of D100 Dungeon, it's going to seem very familiar because, again, in essence, we're doing a dungeon crawl. So this is the entrance. So it's a 23. There's no separate entrance table. We will just go to what we have here on 23. And there's it looks like a... So basically, what this says to me is this is essentially a corridor. I'm pretty sure this door, I think, goes to 28. So we're just basically going to walk in. And as I understand it, I think this is an open corridor. There's no door to deal with here, but it is a yellow, so it's a mostly empty place. It has no modifier. We can roll on the search table, which is actually table U for uncover. So we're going to do that and just see what we get. So here we are in this room. Now, again, unless I'm mistaken, there's been no doors. I'm going to talk about doors in my final thoughts because there are a lot of different kinds of doors that you can encounter, and they really do add a lot to the gameplay. But I think as we're rolling, we're just walking through here. We do need to roll for the enemy, however, and we recall that here it's only a -10. So we rolled a 61. So that's going to be an enemy 51 that's going to be waiting for us. This is they enter hatches to feed on power cells and hide by phasing out of sight, typically 4 feet in size. They have a whole bunch of abilities we need to look at here. Their attack value is 35. They've got a defense of 2. They add +1 to damage. They have HP of 8. You can only get scraps ×2 for them, which is a real super bummer because, again, we are looking for something very specific here that we need to get. All right, so we've entered the phase manta onto our sheet, and one thing about this game that is true in D100 Dungeon as well as here are the great abilities, the really thematic abilities for the enemies. This has cloaked, flight, and regenerate, so we will look here to see what cloaked is. It can cloak itself, making it harder to target. The combat suffers -1 to their strength, dex, or intelligence whilst attacking an enemy. So we have a dexterity weapon that we're using here, our electromagnetic mortar. And I purchased some power cells for it. I forgot to update that. The explosive rounds. I need to do that. In any case, so our dex is 45. It's only going to be 35. That's going to be rough. So that is the cloaked ability. It also has flight. Flight says that if we are attacking with a strength weapon, it's a further 10 off. That makes sense because it's like if we were trying to fight it and it's whatever, but we're using a dexterity weapon. So luckily that does not impact us. And it has regenerate, and regenerate says it has the ability to restore lost HP. Each time it rolls a natural 1 on the damage die, it will restore 2 lost HP to itself. Now it only has 8 HP. I'm going to say at the outset that if I weren't doing this for camera, I possibly would just try to evade this because it's not even giving me what I want, and it's probably not worth what I'm going to expend in energy and such just to get the +1 dex pip. But I'm going to do it for the video because I want to show a little combat on this video before we end, and we're getting really long here. So the bottom line is, at the outset of combat, the first thing we're going to do is we're going to roll a d10 for the enemy reaction, and the enemy reaction is a 6, so I already know that means that it just fights. And so the next thing we are going to do is we're going to attack it with our weapon. Now again, it's going to be 35 or less. That's not so easy. That's not so easy. Oh my God, we rolled a 3. That's awesome. I really want to increase my dexterity, and actually my dexterity, this is a good start. My dexterity, oh no, I thought my dexterity was shaded. It's not, but my strength is. Anyway, I'm going to get a pip on there. That's great. So that is a hit. So when you hit, the way that it works is, I'll go to the chart here and show you. So again, here's the enemy reaction table. We rolled a 6, so that it is going to fight us. And now we've gone through, we did a successful hit with our electromagnet mortar, which has a +3 to the damage roll. And honestly, I may just take a chance here. I just want to get this over with. These explosive rounds, I have 4 of them, and they each add 1. I need to mark them here. They each add 1 time that I can use a 1d10 to roll for damage instead of, let me get that off of here. All right. In any event, we're gonna roll. We won't use that. We're gonna roll the d6 for the damage as well as the damage modifier, and the red is going to be our damage die. Oh, you know what? I'm going to risk it. I'm feeling lucky. So I'm going to use one of my explosive rounds to roll a d10 for damage. So we're going to take one off here. I just really want to blow these things away quickly. And we are still going to be rolling the location die to see what the modifier is to all of this. So here we go. And well, that didn't help out. We rolled a 4 and a 3. So 3 is vitals. That's good. So that's a +1 plus 4 is 5. And because we're using our electromagnetic mortar, that's a +3. And guess what? 5 plus 3 is 8. Now, it does have a defensive value, I think. It only has 8 HP. However, it did have a defense of 2. So we have done a total of 6 damage to it. And then it is going to come back and, I don't know, do these sting or whatever these things do. Its attack value is also the same as ours here with its modifier. So 35 or less, it's going to do a hit, and it misses. So it misses us. Second round, we need to roll for its reaction. That is a 3, so it's going to make an attack. So we are going to attempt another roll here to try to get to it. 35 or less is what we're looking for, and that's a fail on our part. And it's going to come back and attempt an attack on us. Ooh, we did failed as well. Go to the next round. Its reaction is a 6. It's going to fight, and this is us again getting, it's only got 2 HP left. and we rolled a 23. That's great. So that's a hit. Now, let's see. So we're going to roll. We're not going to expend another explosive thing. That was probably foolhardy. We're going to roll here. Again, red is the damage. We got at the waist, so no modifier. We get just a 2. There's no modifier there. However, we have I think this is going to be enough. 2 plus 3 is 5. It has a defense of 2. That's 3 points of damage. And it had, I wrote 6, but actually that was wrong. I did 6. It had 2, and we have just dispensed with it. I think that's accurate. I'll go back and review the video, but we have dispensed with that, and we get 1 dexterity pip added to our sheet here, getting a little experience there, and we're making our way up the ladder here. So that is an example of combat. We can search the room. I'm going to search the room because we just got the 2 scraps. So I will actually indicate that we got the 2 scraps here, and those are 25 each. We got to start selling some stuff. And I believe now we can search the room. Yeah. So we get a plus 10 on that search roll. We got a 67, so that's a 77. We will see what we uncovered in this room. Remember, we're really just looking for one specific thing, but we got a 77 here in that room search. And we come across a weapon crate, and inside is a powerful weapon. We found an upgraded weapon. Re-roll on table W and add S, add +1 to its damage value. It gains plus 300. That's pretty cool. All right, let's see what we found. We found 18. That's a low roll. Don't know that that's going to be so great for us. A Vero blade. It's a two-handed strength weapon, and it is made from depleted uranium and vibrates thousands of times per second. It is excellent at cutting and reduces an enemy's defense by -1. If the enemy has a defense of 0, it has no effect. Well, that could be pretty useful, but it only does a -1 damage, 200. We are going to get to upgrade it, however, to add a +1 to its damage value, so that would be a neutral, and it gains plus 300 to credit. That looks like something we could sell. So that's going to be like a 500 credit thing. I'm going to do that off camera, and I think now is the time for me to, probably past the time for me to offer some thoughts on D100 space. I tried to show you as much of the game system as I could get into one video. It's already a long video for me. And I'll just say at the outset, the amount of material packed into this slightly over 100-page book is just phenomenal. You have 50 away missions. You have all the travel that you can do within the system, that you can focus on trading and just buying and selling and moving passengers to get money. What you will find that you want to do, I think, because I'm finding this right away, is to really upgrade your Starship. Because I noticed when I was traveling that the combination of my low value, travel value, which was my jump speed, it was at 55 because of this minus on the particle scoop. That was just, it was like taking up a lot of fuel and time. And also the fact that I don't have cargo space could become an issue. So you start to really want to upgrade your ship pretty quickly. But look at how expensive it is to get a new ship. And then there are upgrades that you can get to the ship. And where are those? These modifications that you can get, like something that will increase your cargo space, but it costs 2,000 credits. Or I'm really interested in doing something, if I can, a hyperdrive booster increases the Starship's jump speed by 10, that's going to cost me 3,000. So you start to get, like, I don't want to say greedy, but this is how the game gets you, because you start to want these things. At the same time, you are going to start to want to increase your own stats, of course. But I feel like with this game more so than in D100 Dungeon, the desire to increase at the macro level, the Starship, the ability to move around, the trading aspect of it, that's really drawing me in. Not that the dungeon crawl aspect isn't, but that this is an added level for this game. What I didn't even, speaking of added levels, what I didn't even get to cover in detail at all is the fact that you can have space combat with another starship. So you can be traveling around, you can have an event. There's lots of potential for bad events if you go off course or whatever, and do space starship to starship combat. And there's a really cool table here where you are basically, the AI is handled. You're rolling on here to see what the captain is doing, what the enemy is doing, and whether it's targeting shields or weapons or trying to evade or whatever. And this is a whole little system that's built in here that I just don't have time to go over. You can get boarded by other enemies. I mean, it's the imaginative capacity that the mechanics of the game give you here is really astounding. And this is just the basic book. Again, even moving within a star system, I off camera went to an agricultural world and did some food collection that I then sold. But there's just other things that you can do that I didn't have an opportunity to show you here. This is a phenomenal adaptation of the D100 dungeon mechanics, and in a way, it almost feels like a better fit or a more thematic fit, because there's something about the procedural nature of this game. And even just looking at the log sheet here, and if you think back to the D100 dungeon character sheet, which looks quite similar, there's something about the procedural nature that fits very well with a space theme, almost more so than a dungeon fantasy theme, I think. It's not to say this is a better game. It's just the fit feels, in a sense, more natural. And I think if this game had come first, perhaps, and then D100 Dungeon had come out, you might feel that little bit more. In any case, this is a game, as I said at the outset, that is occupying a space in gaming that is very, very empty. There really isn't a lot in this space. And this game in and of itself provides so much. Again, even with the tables of the possibilities of the geographic things that we didn't really get a chance to see here in exploration, you will find lots of different opportunities to have the world come alive for you, that when you encounter some of these things in your space missions, it makes things very different from mission to mission, despite or in, even with all the flavor text of the missions themselves. Hyperdrives events, there's space pirates. And again, I don't want to show too much because a lot of the fun of this is discovering it on your own. And all of these tables, they're either D100 tables or D50 tables, as this is. So just a ton of variance here in terms of what can happen. We also didn't get to the use of these implants that I talked about, where you could possibly have all sorts of different things that you can do if you build up these CyberCon implants. In terms of the negatives or the downside, the one thing I will say is that so many of the tests involve intelligence. I didn't realize this when I made my character, but I do have a tendency when building characters to make the intelligence the highest value. It's lucky that I did in this case because we just kept going back to that characteristic a lot. And I think if you built a different type of character where the intelligence was a low value, it could feel frustrating initially before you built that value up, because you keep going back to that value for the tests. And even if you have some additional benefit, like a crew helping you, that could be tough. And in terms of the layout of the book, there's a couple of things like here, for example, this took me forever to find out. This is like a really key thing that you're going to be doing time and time again about refueling and repowering and how much it costs. And it was just kind of, I mean, it's in the right place, I guess, but it just was super buried here, I think, in a way that I think maybe that could have been visually called out a little bit more, as well as there is an error or an omission on the sheet here that perhaps can be corrected, which is there is no indicator of how you roll for damage. In the book, in the example in the book, there is this, it's very clear here that for armor found, you roll a 1d6 and this is how you damage it. But actually on your sheet, it doesn't say that at all. So that should be, I hope, corrected just to clarify things. But very small quibbles with a fantastic rule set, super thematic, easy to understand, and just engaging. It just makes you want to keep playing. I want to finish this mission. I want to get the credits. I want to spend that money. I want to upgrade. I want to move faster through space so I can get to do more things. And that, what else can you say? I mean, there's nothing else to say. This is fantastic experience. I think if you do not want to do any type of management of resources, as I said, this map sheet here, that I suppose is another sort of caveat. If you're not interested in doing that, I mean, could you play the game and just say, yes, I automatically get to this place? Yes, you could play the game just for the dungeon crawl aspect, but I suspect that so much would be lost because really it is creating an entire universe, and the relationship between the little things that you do and the big things that you do is key to the game. But so there is that to bear in mind if you're thinking about this for your gameplay. So in sum, I can't say enough good things about D100 Space. Absolutely loved it. At the outset of the video, I pointed out this very promising book 1 notice. I don't know what is coming next, but hopefully it's coming quickly because this is just fantastic. There's so much content in here. There's just hundreds of hours of play, probably, honestly, in this book alone. But of course, one always wants more.